Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm
Hey,
currently
Sarah.
living in Xi'an, China.
Thanks,
So
Sarah.
I was asked to share like 30 minutes ago, so please bear with me because I only woke up like 40 minutes ago. So I'm gonna do my best. Okay, so I've decided to read from the daily reflections for today, and then I'm gonna share my experience, strength, and hope based on that. Okay, cool. All right, so overcoming self-will, March 3rd. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 62. For so many years, my life revolved solely around myself. I was consumed with self in all forms. Self-centeredness, self-pity, self-seeking, all of which stemmed from pride. Today, I have been given the gift, through the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, of practicing the steps and traditions in my daily life, of my group and sponsor, and the capacity, if I so choose, to put my pride aside in all situations which arise in my life. Until I could honestly look at myself and see that I was the problem in many situations and react appropriately inside and out, until I could discard my expectations and understand that my serenity was directly proportional to them, I could not experience serenity and sound sobriety. Okay, so, wow, it's quite amazing. I've always said that, whenever I read from the daily reflections or in NA, we read from the Just for Today. And I always feel that the reading always pinpoints something that's going on for me in like directly in my life. So I guess I'll start with a little bit about myself and where I'm from. So I'm originally from South Africa, and I'm from a small town on the coast in the Western Cape of SA. And when I first got clean, I was living in a city called Cape Town, and I was 23, and I was very adamant that I did not have a problem. I remember sitting in the room in my first sort of meeting in the treatment center, and I remember looking around and thinking, well, I don't have a problem. Like, all of these people next to me have a problem, but I don't. Like, I'm good. I'm still young. I'll figure it out. I'll go back out and I'll be fine. And I mean, it went, like, it was good. Like, my first treatment was good. I guess I didn't really take in everything that was being said. I took in the things that I wanted to hear, and then I let the rest just kind of, fall to the wayside. Needless to say, I stayed clean for about 4 months, and then I went back out because I thought I knew best. And luckily, my relapse didn't last very long, and I ended up back home in my hometown, which is Plettenberg Bay. And I was angry, especially at my family. I felt that I'd been, pulled from a life that I wanted to live. My parents wanted me to go back to treatment. I thought that that was a joke, and I thought that I could do it by myself. But I spent some time at home detoxing, and that was when my parents convinced me to go back to treatment. And I knew that it had to be my decision to go back to treatment. You know, at least the one thing that had gotten through to me was that if I didn't do this for myself, it wasn't going to work. And I knew that the first time around, I did it for everyone else and not for me. So I went back in, and that was, I guess, when everything changed for me. I remember walking into the treatment center, and now my hometown is really small, but we have 6 treatment centers in my hometown, which is pretty remarkable. And I remember walking into the treatment center, and I remember seeing a guy who I'd seen in a meeting in Cape Town, and at that stage he was almost a year clean, and he just looked so different. You know, he looked so happy and free, and he had this massive smile on his face. I looked like shit, you know, and I remember him giving me the biggest hug, and he was just so excited to see me. And I was so embarrassed, you know, I didn't want to be there, and I certainly didn't want to be seeing him in the state that I was in. But he made me feel welcome, and you know, he spoke to me while my parents were looking around, and I guess like he was kind of the reason that I actually chose to book in, because I saw how happy he was, and I saw what he had. You know, when I'd seen him in Cape Town, he was a completely different person to the person that was standing in front of me, and I wanted what he had. And that was kind of like a huge thing for me. You know, I didn't think that what he had was what I wanted until I actually saw it in action. And yeah, so I booked into treatment willingly, and that was when everything changed. I decided to spend a year in my hometown because I felt that I needed to have stability around me, and I wanted to completely disassociate myself from the life that I'd created in Cape Town, which was really a good thing. And so I stayed at home for my first year clean. And during that time, I really got stuck in with meetings. I got overly involved in everything recovery-wise. And I then, I also met my fiance in PLEP, which, you know, looking back, if someone had told me that I was going to meet the person I was going to marry in my hometown, which is ridiculously small, I would have laughed at them and said that they're crazy. But I met him there, and that was just before my first year clean. And yeah, and then I'd sort of decided that once I'd gotten to a year clean, I was ready to sort of think about what I wanted to do next. And that was when China came into, you know, sort of came into focus. And so my partner and I decided, okay, cool, we're gonna give this a try. And so we moved to China. Fast forward 2 years, and we've been living here quite happily. So with, recovery-wise, the move to China was pretty tough. I arrived in Xi'an, and I thought that there would be meetings just like in my hometown. I was attending, you know, 5-6 meetings a week, chairing 2 of them, very involved with a lot of stuff and fellowshipping. And I went from that huge support system to absolutely nothing here in China. And that was really tough. I guess I have to take some responsibility. I was not interested in online meetings when I first arrived here. I I've always been a better when it's face-to-face. I love face-to-face interactions. So the whole online thing, I tried it out and I didn't feel that it worked for me. And instead of, instead of trying to give it another shot, I kind of just let it go. And basically for the last year and a half, I would say, like, I white knuckled it. I had a sponsor on and off. I attended meetings when I would go home to South Africa, or if I was away, like I visited Thailand and I went to a lot of meetings while I was there. And I visited New Zealand and I went to a couple of meetings there. So I've done, on and off, I've done some meetings, but basically like the majority of my time is spent now in China, and I wasn't doing meetings. And like I said, I was on and off with sponsors, on and off with step work, and I was certainly not living the perfect recovery life that I had envisioned to be living. And I guess that's where self-will comes into it, because I had definitely taken my self-will back. I decided that I knew what was best for my life, and I took control. I took control of the wheel. And honestly, I do not know how I didn't pick up. I personally believe that that was my higher power watching over me, because there were a lot of times where I could have. But I managed to not pick up, so that's great. And then when I came back from my recent trip to New Zealand, I decided to really give the online meetings a shot. And then everything changed. I got into contact with some really great people, and I started doing, about 4 meetings a week online. And I'm 3 years clean now. I celebrated 3 years clean last month. And to go from doing no meetings to 4 meetings a week, it's just amazing, the change in my life. When we talk about the gifts of recovery, it's only because of recovery that I'm sitting here today. It's only because of AA that I'm sitting here today. I don't know where I would be if it weren't for the rooms. And I've had to realize that I might not be able to attend face-to-face meetings like I always do, or like I prefer to do, but there are other means and other ways of getting that connection and that fellowship that I crave, that I need in my life. And I'm just really grateful for everything that recovery has given me. I'm really grateful. And I didn't think that as a young person, I really didn't see how my life was going to work out in recovery. I kind of had these assumptions that, I was never going to live a normal life, because I couldn't drink and I couldn't use, and I had all these things that I wasn't allowed to do anymore. But actually, recovery has opened up so many other doors, and I'm not limited in what I can do, and I'm really grateful for that. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I'm really grateful, and thank you to Molly for letting me share. I hope that I didn't take up too much time, and yeah, thanks for the meeting.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.